welcome back. Those who have been following my work know that I always advocate asking questions, and the world around us pulls us to ask a host of questions. In the education field, for example, a teacher may say, I explained the lesson very well and gave many examples, and we solved those examples together, but until now the student does not know how to do this assignment. In the business field, an investor may ask, do I invest in this company or not? In project management, a project sponsor may ask, our project is complex. How can we handle the variances to balance cost, schedule, and risk? In the corporate environment, a CEO asks, how can I strategize to mitigate loss in the HR capital? In a social environment, a person may ask, what can we do to better integrate it in this new community? A parent may ask, why is there a delay in my child's language development? A sick person may ask, why is my body not responding to the medicine or the remedies that I'm taking? And the questions from different industries are endless. Reflecting on this, we can funnel 4 driving questions. Can we find all the gaps within this scenario? Why do we still have gaps despite all our planning efforts? How can we monitor the gaps and work on them to reach the highest possible outcome? Can we maintain the highest possible outcome amid all the changes and or emergencies? The previous talk was about systems or elements, and it was a general portrait of the complexity of the world around us and its dynamism. Today we go deeper into those sets of interactive elements, which more precisely are better called agents, and in this context they have a proactive role and can influence the overall result. And this means they have a certain purpose. They do not work alone. So let us think of examples. A human body, a family, a community, a company, an organization, an industry, a section, or a sector. All these are examples of one complete group, a whole, or an entirety. And this whole is made of parts. So the human body is a whole, and this whole is made of organs, and the organs are made of cells. The family is a whole. Members make up the family. So the members are the parts in this case. Now, similar is the case with the community, a company and organization. Each is a whole, and members and processes or operations are the parts. Now, this is easy to understand because this skill is no more than categorization, sorting, and grouping. It's the skill that has been taught in schools for decades. We have been taught to do categorization, sorting, and grouping in almost all disciplines. And I have given an example in a previous talk, but schools do not discuss relationships and dependencies. And this is one example in which school efforts remain limited because, as we mentioned before, and as we all know, our world does not operate in a linear way. So recently, the skill has extended to mind mapping, which is a very powerful tool to focus on an idea and expand it through connections to solve a problem. Now, many schools have been integrating mind mapping, and we cannot deny that it is a central tool to understand sciences. This categorization or sorting and grouping evolved also to be a salient activity in another tool called concept mapping. And this is different than mind mapping because it focuses on more than one idea. So it navigates through more than one layer, resulting in more solutions and restructuring of concepts. Only few schools integrate concept mapping because it is more advanced. And again, this is why schooling remains limited in the journey of teaching and learning for our present and for our future. We know that our present and our future are demanding. Now, back to the questions we asked at the beginning, a fundamental question emerges here. Is the knowledge of whole and part, sorting and grouping enough to understand the gaps in those scenarios, to know how to detect and monitor those gaps, how to predict risks? I have been aware firsthand of such scenarios for more than 20 years as I handled curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment, and all showed on a larger scale when I became a leader in management and design and restructuring. I also noticed patterns within these contexts and at a personal level too in my personal life. It all showed as missing links, recurrences, and open-ended loops, and it was so obvious that it could not be neglected. So let us first think of this whole as a system and these parts to be subsystems. Smaller than these subsystems are elements. Some call them components, nodes within these representations. So we understand that there are connections and interactions that emerge into outcomes. But how does this happen? It all started with the biologist Ludwig von Bertalanffy in 1940s when he introduced systems theory, arguing that there are open systems, not closed systems, that classical science explained. And it's true, those wholes or entireties or systems do not exist in isolation. When we look around us, there is chaos, there is a sense of disorder. But zooming in, there are interactions that create feedback, and these feedback loops are dynamic. They build patterns that also build paradigms. So when we zoom out, we see connections forming networks and expanding to form more networks. So this is what we call multidimensionality and dynamism. So this is when the whole becomes the part and the part becomes a whole. There is no separation. There is no isolation. So when we first identify the system we want to study or work on, we examine its subsystem and or elements respectively depending on the subject we're studying. So usually we learn to think about those parts or elements to indicate their functionality and see what can be done either to better understand the system or to improve the system. How does the system work? This is the analytical way of studying, because here we are breaking down the whole into parts. Now this is very helpful, but it's not enough if we want to enhance or disrupt a certain environment. In this case, we combine or synthesize the parts, making the dynamics of the system more visible. Synthetical thinking. So here we ask, why does the system emerge in this way? If we want to make a change, we need to answer such questions. So now as we pursue transformative management and leadership, strategy, innovation, and more conscientious technology and operations, we cannot rely only on analytical thinking. We need both, keeping our work loops open-ended. Still, synthetical and analytical thinking must be embraced with a vital player, and this is the point that will be developed later in this series. So, what do our education institutions, K-12 and higher education, teach and enable? And what do parents discuss and enable during their quality time with their children? Thank you for being here and stay tuned.